Good evening. I hereby call this regular meeting of the Nacogdoches ISD Board of Trustees to order. Let our record show that a quorum is present and notice of this meeting was legally posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act. Board member James Montoya is unable to attend the meeting tonight. He is in our prayers. He had just lost his sister and had to go make arrangements for her funeral. Please remember that items do not have to be taken in order shown on the agenda, and please join us in turning your cell phones to silent mode. The board will now conduct an executive closed session to discuss the items posted on our agenda pursuant to the following provisions of the Texas Open Meetings Act and as allowed by Texas Government Code Section 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, 551.076, and 551.129. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussions in closed session will take place after the board reconvenes in open session. It is now 5:01 p.m. Thank you. The board is now reconvening into open session at 6 p.m. All right. This month, the spotlight is on Brooks Quinn Jones Elementary School. And we want to thank you for decorating the bulletin boards here at the administrative offices with pictures of our future graduates. I tell you, I've enjoyed looking at those both at our meeting on Monday and tonight. So thank you so much to the students and the teachers and staff that put those together for us. If I may, I will call Principal Tom Miller to the podium. He will lead us in our invocation as well as introduce the students and who will lead our pledges tonight. Mr. Miller.
All right, thank you. Will you pray with me? Heavenly Father, this evening we ask for your presence in this meeting, that your hands direct and guide our school board to make good decisions for our students, teachers, and community, just as we pray for the faculty and staff at NISD. It is by faith, even if as small as a mustard seed, that we can do all things. And when we sow the seeds, our students, I pray that we have the courage to stand for what is right and true and provide the best and most fertile soil for each seed, that we don't throw our seeds on rocky grounds or in thorns. For when we choose wisely, we will see our students grow 100-fold. Our community will be blessed, we will be blessed, and our children will be blessed. We pray that when our students have grown, that they will have the will of a lion and the heart of a lamb. Dear God, just as many in the audience have been fortunate enough to have someone mentor them, watch over them, and guide them into adulthood, we pray that our students will have the same opportunity afforded to them. Dear God, we pray this prayer in faith that all will grow in his name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you. President Fitch, school board members, Mr. Fraley, I'm very proud that we are here this night recognizing the school board members, and we have the proud students here that are in our safety patrol. They do a great job getting the kids into the school every morning and home every evening. So this is about half of them. So if y'all will stand up. And, we'll start here with Joel, and he can introduce himself.
My name is Joel.
My name is Alicia.
My name is Alyssa.
My name is Jennifer.
My name is Joanna.
My name is Raven.
My name is Kinsley.
My name is Alondra. My name is Emiliano. Please stand for the pledge. Place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And do we
Yeah.
have any parents here with us tonight? Yeah, let's we'd love for the parents to have an opportunity to stand. First, we want to thank you for bringing your students out to be with us tonight. Feel free to take pictures. Thank you. And students, I want to say a special thank you for serving on the safety patrol at your campus. I know that that takes a lot of extra commitment. I'm sure you have to get to campus a little bit early, and you may even have to stay a little late every day. So we thank you for that.
Yeah.
Madam President, my first job at NISD was being a counselor to help train kids in safety patrol.
Yeah.
There you go.
My first job in NISD,
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
high school sophomore. Along with Judge Sauer. We did it together.
Safety patrols at Renee.
There you
That's
go.
right, that's right.
You guys go way back.
We do. Way back. We both had more hair than belly, yeah.
All right, that's going to take us to item 4 on our agenda tonight, which is a public hearing. We'll now proceed with that regarding the Texas Academic Performance Report, also known as the TAPER, for the 2017-2018 school year. After the presentation, there will be an opportunity to hear comments from the audience, and comments at that time must pertain to the TAPER, but we're going to hear the presentation first. Dr. Hill.
All right, good evening, President Fitch, board members, and Interim Superintendent Fraley, members of the community. This is an annual report that's required by TEA, specifically noted in the Texas Education Code. It's a fairly lengthy report, but the presentation should be short. Please pause and ask questions if at any time I'm going a little too quickly, or if there's a particular slide or a section that you want me to pause and talk about. So you'll notice that there are 7 sections that are going to be in this presentation tonight, and each slide denotes either a various section or parts of that section. The first section pertains to the TAPER itself. This is a public report that is on the TEA website. However, TEA did alter the format of it. We have an interactive version that is online as well as a PDF version. And so what's loaded in the board book this evening is a PDF version, but anybody in the community can access it via the TEA website. Continuing on, you'll notice on the cover page of each of them, specifically the district, you'll notice that we have the district and the campus rating. This year, TEA gave the district a letter grade, which we earned a C. And the majority of this information, you have seen it in bits and pieces throughout the year, but this is just the annual culminating report, if you will. All of our campuses met standard with the exception of Malcolm Rector, who is improvement required. Our special education determination status is needs intervention, and that was based on PBMAS, specifically students who are identified as special education and also dual coded in either CTE, bilingual, ESL, from a STAR performance standpoint. We did meet requirement for administering the ASVAB assessment. And then the district has an opportunity to earn some designation distinctions, but there were none for this year. And you'll also notice that the TAPER it's always a year behind. So it's for the 17-18 school year. We'll continue on looking at the TAPER. The first section denotes all of the STAR performances, broken down into approaches, meets, and masters, looks at each grade level, each assessment, of course, and then separate accountability subsets that you'll see across the top. As you continue throughout the TAPER, goes on into school progress, student success initiative performance, which are, of course, at grades 5 and 8. And then goes into a section that's relatively new for our bilingual education and ESL students. You continue on, it talks about our participation rate, just meaning the students that took the test, the number of tests, looks at specifically attendance, graduation, as well as dropout rates. And then you get into a section that's college, career, military readiness. Dr. Groman, I know you asked me a question on Monday in the agenda review, and I believe I might have misunderstood it, but I'll tell you what I found out, and if I didn't find out the correct answer, then I'll come back to you. I took your question to ask about our career military-ready graduates, and so the information that we found out was about approximately 30 students. 30 students, yes, sir. Now, that's a little different than just the number of students who enlisted in the military, and I can get that number for you. That's the number I didn't find out. So
It's bigger,
but-
I thought it was 20 or 21, because I counted at graduation.
great.
So
We're
it's
thinking
even
it's
more than I
approximately
thought.
30, yes, sir.
Good,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
You're very welcome. Continuing on, we go into some additional student information about student enrollment. It even breaks it down by grade level as well as specific programs. Then you get into our staff information. It also includes total staff, staff by classification, ethnicity, gender, highest degrees, number of rates, or number of degrees, years of experience. Also, the turnover rate is also mentioned in on that particular slide. One thing that's not included in the TAPER, but we are required to report, is that the number of counselors that we have in the district, and we have 20. Then we move on to Section 2. And this is where we get into our PEMS financial standard reports. One thing, again, that's not listed in here, that what we are required to talk about is, and I'm going to have to read it, and I've asked Ms. Barbarick to stand by and answer this if there's any questions. But we are supposed to say that the encumbered surplus fund balance as of the last day of the preceding fiscal year was $18,294,352, which represents a less than 1% based on the preceding year's budget for 2016-17. That's just a piece of information that's required in the code, but they don't include it in the taper. The third section, we get into the district accreditation status, and you'll see the very last sentence is that, of course, we are accredited. Our campus performance objectives, those are what we brought to you back in October for approval. Those are a part of our campus as well as our district improvement plans, and those are items that you have seen once before. We are required to translate those into Spanish, and so those have been posted to our website as well as the English versions. I'm proud to report on section number 5 on our report in violent and criminal incidents. We had 0 for this particular school year, so wonderful news.
Wow.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Moving on to section 6, which is the student performance in post-secondary institutions. That last bullet is probably the most important, is because it's looking at the 2015-16 graduates, and of course that information is reported by grade point average for those students.
So that runs, what would that be, 2 years, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And then the last section is just the glossary. There may be just some unfamiliar terms or things that you don't really understand how it was calculated. I know I heavily rely on the glossary myself for interpretation, so that is provided. And then this last slide just talks about how we have posted all of this information on our website. We've also provided, or will provide as of tomorrow, the campuses with a hard copy of everything that you have in your board book, and I have the notebook over here. Just for a point of reference, if additional information is needed, then the community can reach out to myself, and as well as Dr. Jolynn Corley, and we'll answer any and all questions. Thank you.
Okay. Well, does
Thank you.
Do the board members have any questions for Dr. Hill? I may have one, sorry.
Sure.
Quick question for you. On page 13 in the board book, it's, I guess that's section 1. It's talking about 2018 special education determination status, district only needs intervention. Can you tell me exactly what that means?
And I've got Ms. Young here. It's my understanding that it's based on our PBMAS, which is the performance-based monitoring assessment something. And that report looks at bilingual students, career technical education students, as well as special ed. And we look at participation rates for the test, and then we look at performance. And so we have made improvements, I will say that. So they stage us, the state of Texas stages for each of those different areas. And so we have decreased in stages. The highest stage is a 4, which is not good, and so you really want to be at a 0. And so basically, it's because of our students who are special education, and they haven't made the progress that we would like for them to make.
Okay, so does
on the
that,
star.
when it says, let me clarify, when it says district only in parentheses, what does that mean as compared to campus? Is that,
It's
or-
usually all of this, yes, ma'am, and it's all of the grades 3 through 8 averaged together.
Okay.
So
3
it's
through 8, so it doesn't include, say, the
3
high
through 8
school?
EOC. 3 through 8 and EOC.
Okay. It does include the high school as well?
It does, yes, ma'am.
So that comes back to the conversation we've had in regard then to some of the making sure that the special education students have access to, say, CTE programming and such. Am I on the right track there? Okay. I want to make sure I was understanding it kind of appropriately, and I know that that's an area that's being addressed and improvements are trying to be implemented.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions from board members? Yes.
I do. I have one, and it's related to the staff. I guess it's page 22 related to the district, but I think it's on page, well, I I can't read the number, it didn't print. But it talks about the year's experience and compares that, the district to the state. And I know last year when I was looking at some of these numbers, we were lagging behind the state, and that's from about 14 to the end, whatever was reported last year, which would have been, I guess, 16, 17 school year. And so as I see this for last school year, it's about the same. We have, less experienced, years-wise staff compared to the state. But also the turnover rate seems like it went up last year. And, in my world, I do watch turnover rate very carefully to know kind of how we're taking care of the hospital. But, so I'm wondering, how are we looking for this year? Do we take these numbers and try to see what we're doing to, who's using this information to make improvements, I guess?
Mr. Martin, do you want to help with that question, or Mr. Whitaker?
I can say that typically what we do is when we conduct the exit interviews that we've talked about before, as to why folks are leaving, and it's various reasons, sometimes promotion in other districts, sometimes a spouse relocation.
Right.
Sometimes it's by preference on the part of the employer. And sometimes was just not a good fit, and things happen that we do try to clean those things up. Typically, folks want to look at per campus, and that's one way, but it doesn't always show the whole story, because sometimes it's not that the campus has issues that are wrong or bad, but sometimes the employees just don't like things that are happening there. But certainly we want to look at the environmental conditions, the working conditions. That's more, as we discussed earlier, than the salary in Searcy County. And we have the issue with a number of places that are in the more rural parts of the state. A lot of employees, they move to the urban areas where the pay is a lot higher. And they may go to a middle-class suburban area, and they feel that teaching conditions are a little bit easier, which is not always the case. So it varies, but we certainly look at it. Just working on anything that's, please.
No, sir, I think you get right at that point on there, and looking at the information and taking what you said about the exit interviews and taking that data and studying it to how can we improve, campus program environment, the culture of campuses, and definitely improve on that. And I think you hit the nail on the head with the exit interviews. That's the information that we're getting is staff relocation due to spouse relocation, good opportunities that they see even out of the educational career field, and that they're looking at other types of employment and better opportunities they see in different cities and Dallas and Houston area.
And I'm reading that, that's a theme throughout the industry. I just have been concerned with last year when we were talking about this, and there was a lot of public concern about the turnover. And it seems like this year I have not heard what I was hearing a year ago. So I'm just wondering how we're doing this year compared, because 30 is high.
I would tell you, I think we were looking at like 25 for this past year, which you all said it's down from what it used to be.
Yeah.
And so you'll get this in next year's taper report. And I'm hoping that 25%, which is lower than in the past, will be higher than the next one coming up.
Okay.
Report.
But that's what I wanted to know
Okay.
and
Excellent.
hear.
Good point, though. Good question. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. At this time, I'll open it up for public comments from the community. I would ask that anyone wishing to make comments would hold their comment to 3 minutes, maximum of 3 minutes. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in regard to the taper public hearing? All right, hearing none, we will close that public hearing. Thank you, Dr. Hill. All right, that takes us to item 5, celebrations and information items. We're going to turn it over to Interim Superintendent Fraley.
Thank you, Madam President. Trustees, and you all remember that last month we talked about the upcoming closure of Austin Street from Regay up to North Street. Well, it's here. It has happened. Thus far, we're not having a lot of major issues, but we'll be very mindful of it. And this will be for about more than a year, this project. So keep that in mind. I want to celebrate the boys and girls swim teams. They swept the 17-5A district titles last weekend in Lufkin. I want to congratulate them. The boys had 175 points and the girls had 217 points. to beat their competition. Haley Gogan's a senior, and Jackson Calsbury, a junior, who I think went to state last year in swimming, were named the top swimmers in the district. The top 6 finishers in each event will be in the regional competition February 1st and 2nd in College Station. We're excited about that. We'll have the boys in 24 events at regionals and girls in 31 races at regionals. So congratulations, outstanding swimmers, and their coach, Kerry Scroggins. Boys, the basketball team is looking very strong. You say lost Thursday night, that's Tuesday, but they're still at the top of the district, where they're close to it. They were in a tournament back in Waco over the holidays. Keep forgetting, this is our first meeting this year. So last year, they were in Waco, and they came in second in their division, which is a pretty good mark considering the competition there. It's very, very proud of those guys. Thomas J. Rusk Elementary brought back a favorite last week, the community spelling bee. I know Ms. Harshberger is there, and I may have a question for you in a minute, all right? It's a word. A team from E-Tech won the competition, and the winning word was ubiquitous. Can you spell that word? Who will say? 13 teams participated in the event that serves as a fundraiser for the campus, and several of the businesses and individuals made donations too, and the entire event was a great success, and just really appreciate the extra work on the part of TJR and the community for supporting it. And Ms. Horsberg, anything you want to say about that, or?
I'm so thankful for all the community support. We also had a hospitality room in addition to the bee, so that we could feed our spellers before the event, and all of that food was donated by area businesses.
Wow.
And then to be able to stay in the bee, there were second chance passes that were bought, and so it was just a super fun time, very competitive, and but we're very thankful for the community support.
Awesome. Thank you guys for doing the extra work to make that happen. We appreciate it. And that's all I have, Madam President.
Well, thank you. It's very exciting. To say, I loved the pictures I saw on social media of the teams. The costumes were fantastic. They were. That was wonderful. All right, that's going to take us to Mr. Les Lineberger with recognition portion of the meeting.
Good evening, President Fitch, board members, Interim Superintendent Fraley. You may have noticed there's a few extra decorations in here tonight. And
Yes, you're in a
those
coat
are
and
from-
tie. I like that. That's good.
What's that? Okay. What concerns me is I think it came from Mr. Martin instead, and he fed that to you. Anyway, all of our campuses tonight have provided projects that the students worked on in honor of Board Recognition Month. This is something that takes place every January in the state of Texas, and our elementary schools and middle schools did the boards that are up there, that are in front of you. The high school, their CTE department and their floral design class did the tissue paper bouquets there and brought those over in the vases. The Malcolm Rector provided the poster back here. And also on your desks there in front of you, you found some pins this evening with your names etched in the side. That is also from the CTE department. And a senior there at Nacogdoches High School, Abigail Stokes. And Abigail, please stand. She's back here.
Oh, you're here tonight.
Abigail made those pins. Wow. And when Mr. Hasley brought those to me earlier in the week, I took a look at them and thought, my goodness, these are great. Who did these? And so when he mentioned Abigail's work, and we're glad to have her here tonight. Awesome. Thank you for doing that. You did a great job on those.
Thank you, Abigail.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
But, we've got the decorations here tonight, and they're all based on the theme of planting the seeds of success. And I also should mention as well, Ms. Fitch has a plaque up there. That is also, that plaque was made by the CTE department, but it is, that is brought here as well, and it represents a tree that Nacogdoches High School will be planting on its campus there later here in the next few weeks. And it's in honor of Board Recognition Month, and goes along with the theme of planting the seeds of
Very
success.
creative. I like that a lot.
You know, I guess it's fitting that this year's statewide theme is planting the seeds of success, because here in Nacogdoches, several of our campuses tend to their own gardens here. And, you know, that's been featured in the news and everything. But it's possible, I think, to take that idea that planting the seeds of success and take that a bit further. Because really, what you do as a board not only plants those seeds, but you create, maybe cultivate, you might say, an atmosphere to where there can be success. Because you know that when you work in the garden, when you plant the seeds, that's not where it stops. That's actually where it begins. But you've got to tend to that garden. You've got to water it occasionally. You might have to get some weeds, or you might have to set some things out there so the tomato plants will grow up straight and high and keep those tomatoes off the ground. But the same can be said about nurturing a climate for learning. So our board members, President Pam Fitch, Vice President G.W. Neal, Secretary James Montoya, and Dr. Tyrell Groman, M.D., Fashid Niraman, Mindy Bean Winslow, and the Reverend James Irvin provide leadership that is crucial to this district, and the state takes a moment to recognize that as well. But these school board members not only plant the seeds of success for our students, their actions foster that climate where they can enjoy success. So please join me in thanking our school board members. I believe Dr. Groman has something he'd like to mention as well.
Before I kick it to Dr. Groman, I just want to thank all of the campuses. It takes a lot of time and creativity to put these presentations together, and they're absolutely beautiful. I think each of the board members took time before the meeting to individually look at each of these boards, and I just want to thank you. And I'm sure that everyone here would say it's an honor and a privilege to have the opportunity to serve. Dr. Groman, I think you had a little recognition you wanted to give as well.
Well, I have a test. So we want to thank the people who support us. We appreciate your support, but we have people that support us in much closer. So I'm going to give you a name, and then you can see, you don't have to say it out loud, but you can see, do I know who that fits with? So we have Alan, Maylene, Wilma, Alma, Charlie, Alicia, and Dr. Nirumand, as well as in our team of 8, Anissa. So we'll start from that way. We have Alma, Charlie, Maylene, Anissa, Alan, and Dr. Nirumand, his sister, who supports him, and then my wife Alicia, who's over there. So we thank those people who support us and put up with us doing our job for free. It costs them a lot, and we want to thank them. And we want to thank all the spouses in this school district for supporting their spouses and us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
You did really well on the test.
Ms. Fitch, we'd like to take a picture as well. If it would be all right with you, could I have Abigail come up and join us?
Absolutely, we would love that. All right, guys. Absolutely.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, there's nothing. Nothing.
That's fine. You can have one. No, go ahead. That's okay. I'm going to be in the back.
It's an SS report. It's like a Chevelle SS. It's short and sweet.
Second floor is for, right?
Thank you.
For the law.
That old purple Ron go?
Yes, sir.
Ron purple no go? That's it.
All go, that's right.
We done knew that, we'd have dressed.
I got a good humor, by the way. We have to do that one.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Fraley had a few comments.
So, Madam President, if I may, I want to add my voice to those who just say thank you for what you guys do. I've been involved in this business for over 3 decades, with many boards of trustees, and I've actually served on the Board of Trustees. I was recognized in 2001 as the top board in the state of Texas. I was in Cypress Fairbanks. And I will say to this community right now, you have a board that meets that criteria. Well, I can't apply for it because I haven't been here long enough. But if you keep on behaving, and I know you will, we'll see this time next year. I see Brother Edwards there from the Daily Sentinel. I want to thank him for the article that was in December's 23rd, I believe it was, about the turnaround story of the year. That could not have happened without this Board of Trustees. That could not have happened without this Board of Trustees. I want to thank you all for your support, for your leadership, for your heart for kids with this community. And I want this community to really appreciate you have a good Board of Trustees. You have a very good Board of Trustees. And to the staff, we are very blessed to have a board that truly cares about each one of you, all of us, and all the kids. They care about this community. So let's appreciate that, and let's be okay with things being okay. Things are going very well right now, and we're not perfect, we know that. But it's okay for things to be okay. I know some folks are happy when there's misery. We don't need that. We have a very good situation right now, and we're going to continue working forward together as a team to move this community forward. We had a great planning session with the Carpenter staff last Thursday and Friday. McMichael and Moses combined staff Friday morning with the CTE department Friday afternoon and working on the new facilities. A lot of good things are going on. We have people giving Nacogdoches ISD another look to come back. We have, at this point, had fewer requests for transfers and people leaving, I'm told, than previous years. I think folks are beginning to realize that when you really tell the truth, this is a very good place to be. Very good place to be. So thank you all for that, and I'm proud to be a part of you.
Well, thank you for everything you're doing. We appreciate you. It's definitely a team of 8. I should say what our terminology this year has been very much a team of 1, and we appreciate you being a part of our team and the return of the NAC. Right?
That's it.
Yes.
That's it.
That's fantastic. All right, that will carry us through to action item, or item number 6. I apologize. Public comment. I believe we do not have anyone signed up for public comment tonight. So we will move on to item 7, consent agenda. If there are any items that any of our board members would like to remove from consent agenda, let me know. All right. So all items listed on the consent agenda will be acted on with one motion, and I will entertain a motion.
Madam President, I move that we would approve the consent agenda.
Thank you for that, Reverend Irvin. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Nearmond is our second. All those in favor,
Madam
please.
President, if I can make one notification, item D is adopting the order of calling the Board of Trustees election, just FYI. So once you call that order, the rules get a little different for everyone in the district, all right?
All right. Good.
That's it.
All right. Any discussion? All right, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That will take us to item 8. Item A, action resulting from closed session. Do I hear a motion?
Madam President, concerning item 8A1, consideration of purchase of 5.22 acres of real property located at Reserve E, Loop Business Park, Nacogdoches Central, Appraisal District, parcel ID 72735. I move that the Nacogdoches ISD School Board approve the offer to purchase real property at Reserve E, Loop Business Park on the terms discussed in closed session and authorize the superintendent to negotiate any remaining terms and to execute any other necessary documents related to the purchase and closing on behalf of the district.
I second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Neal, and we have a second by Reverend Irvin. Any discussion or comments, Mr. Fraley?
Madam President, just want to confirm this is the final piece of property that we need for Carpenter's new location, and the contract is already signed by the owner. So once you approve it, we sign it, we're cooking with gas, we're good.
Right. So the final piece of our land acquisition for the new Carpenter, that gives us right at say, 18 acres for the new Carpenter campus. So very exciting. Any comments, questions, or further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand and saying aye. 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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all, yes.
Yay.
Thank you.
One step closer. All right, that'll carry us to item B, consideration of a resolution expressing intent to finance expenditures to be incurred. Mrs. Barbrick.
Good evening, President Fitch, board members, Interim Superintendent Mr. Fraley. Attached to in your board book, you'll find a resolution expressing intent to finance expenditures to be incurred. And Exhibit A is an estimate of what we're expecting to finance in the bond, as well as expenses that will be incurred before we sell the bonds. Since the bonds will not be sold until the spring, the district will have expenses to pay. This resolution allows the reimbursement of those expenses that will be paid out of the general fund in the meantime. Any questions?
And we did have, and I apologize, I called you up and I probably shouldn't, we did have an opportunity to review this at our workshop on Monday. So we can move to entertain a motion, and following that motion, we can have any discussion or questions.
Madam President, I move the board approve the resolution expressing intent to finance expenditures to be incurred.
Thank you, Reverend Irvin. Do I hear a second?
I second as well.
Mr. Neermont seconds that for us. Do we have any questions or discussions?
Madam President, just for those who are not familiar with this process, we're going to give ourselves a loan. That's what we're going to give ourselves a loan, and we'll pay ourselves back once the bonds are sold.
All right, hearing no questions or comments or discussion, I will move to take a vote on this. Raise your right hand and say aye if you approve.
Aye.
Any dissent? All right, motion carries unanimously. See if I get my groove back on here. So item C, I will entertain a motion.
Madam President, I move that we approve the opening of a new bank account with Bancorp South and a new investment account with Texas Class Investment Pool.
Thank
I
you.
second the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Winslow and Dr. Groman. Got the motion in the second. Is there any questions or discussion for Mrs. Barbrick on this item?
Just for clarification, if I may, again, this is allowing us to open up a bank account to deposit the bond proceeds into. The class investment account is when we sell the bonds, before we need it, we can invest those funds and earn a little interest on them, and then those funds will go into this new account we're creating to help keep the bonds separated from the other budget.
I like that very much. That's, the bond money will be completely separated
Yes.
from our normal operating account. So I think that is a good financial move in business. Any discussion or questions? All right, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That'll take us to 8D, consideration of purchase of additional vehicles for the Plant Services Department. Can I hear a motion on this one?
Madam President, I move the board approve the purchase of additional vehicle for Plant Services Department in the amount of $280,200.
We have a second by Mrs. Winslow. Thank you so much. Any discussion or questions on this item? Again, we had an opportunity to review this in our workshop. Okay.
Yeah.
Did
Oh,
you have
Madam President, I was going to ask Mr. LaRue, we talked about this at the agenda review, just talk a little bit about the maintenance. I like what the plan is, the maintenance involving students and the program, another opportunity to help our kids grow and develop.
Yes, sir. Good evening, President Fitch, board members, interim superintendent, Mr. Fairley. Yes, we're trying to work with CTE program. Oh, he's back there somewhere, I couldn't find him. They've got a great vehicle maintenance program there. They're going to take over the maintenance on our white fleet, as we call it, in the plant service department. They'll take care of our oil changes, routine maintenance. We hope to start that next fall.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Very innovative, and we definitely appreciate that
Yeah,
opportunity.
it'll be good practical experience for the students, and it'll save plant services a few bucks, so that's a good thing.
That's,
All right, we'll break even.
that's good partnering.
I just had one comment. All those vehicles that had over 200,000 miles on them, do they qualify as antiques when we sell them? We want to get as much money as we can for those.
Some of them do, yes. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr. LaRue.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we've got a motion and a second, so any additional questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor, please raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to item E, consideration of purchase of custodial and grounds equipment. Do I hear a motion on this one?
Yes, ma'am. I move the board approve the purchase of custodial and ground equipment from the list vendors in the amount of $131,500.
Second.
Second by Mr. Neal. Thank you so much. Any questions or comments on this before we vote? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Carries us to item 8F, consideration of and board action to reschedule the March 2019 agenda review meeting and regular board meeting. Reverend Irvin was not able to be with us at our workshop, so can we, Mr. Fraley, would you mind visiting with him about those dates to make sure that they would work for him?
Thank you, Madam President. The current normal rotation has the board meeting happening during spring break. You can do that if you want to. Staff may not join you, but no. So the proposal is to move the meeting from March 21st for the regular meeting to March 28th, which would have the agenda review the Monday we get back from spring break, March 25th. So we'll do all of our posting and things probably the week before spring break.
All right. So those dates work for you?
Perfect.
Perfect. I would entertain a motion on this item.
Madam President, I move the board approve consideration of Monday, March 25th at 12 p.m. for agenda review and Thursday, March 28th at 5 p.m. for regular board meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Naremont.
Second the motion.
I think we have a second by Reverend Irving. Any questions before we vote? All right, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for that. Housekeeping. All right, that brings us to the end of our action item. So we're going to move into a couple of discussion presentations. So as a reminder, these will be items for discussion only. Give us a chance as a board to take a look at these. No action will be taken tonight. The first one is a District of Innovation consideration. Dr. Hill.
Good evening, President Fitch, board members, interim Superintendent Fraley. Thank you again. So we've had some discussions within just executive cabinet about the possibilities of exploring, looking into becoming a District of Innovation. And so I know Mr. Linebarger provided me with a list of East Texas districts that currently are districts of innovations. There was approximately 22 that we looked at within our area, and so we created a chart that basically denoted the areas for which each district created their plan, if you will. All 22 in our surrounding areas have gone out for, or at least considered adopting the calendar. In the state of Texas, it states specifically, and I can't remember the exact Senate bill, that you couldn't begin school prior to the fourth Monday in August. And so most districts around us, those 22, have adjusted their calendar to where they begin prior to that. It puts us at a little bit of a disadvantage from hiring teachers, specifically related to the penalty-free resignation date for teachers. That's typically 45 days prior to the first instructional day. Well, if we have districts that are around us who have that option, we're left, we want really good teachers. We've talked about the turnover rate this evening, and we want the best of the best. And so we want to be able to have an opportunity possibly to consider that. There are currently about 803 districts across the state of Texas that are District of Innovation for one or many reasons.
If I could add something to Madam President. Part of this result, for years, educators would go to Austin and complain about all the restrictions that we have on school systems, how we don't have flexibility and whatnot. And so this is their response. Okay, we'll tell you what then. You tell us what restrictions are in the way of what you want to do, and tell us what you want to do. And if your board is okay with it, your committee is okay with it, then they can make that recommendation, or the board would approve it. TA does not approve the plan. They have a lot of restrictions on how the plan must be developed and reviewed publicly. The Board of Trustees would approve that plan. We're looking at it mainly just from flexibility. We've talked about the school start date for years, and we wanted flexibility with that, so this is their response to allow that to happen. But it has lots of public transparency requirements on it. I'm going to provide for you all, you have already electronically in these FAQs, we can ask questions, but I have a hard copy so you can look at it at your leisure and not try to find it again electronically. I also have a hard copy of the Texas Education Code that's relevant to this as well, so you can see that for yourself. You can look at the whole code if you want to. I also have a copy of the Texas Administrative Code regarding this area as well, that you can, it's not as easy to find this as other things, but here you have a hard copy of it. And please check me, look at it and see if what I gave you is not what's already is there as well. So the main thing is that should you be okay with us looking into it further, we will. I know there were some controversies in previous years about this item, and I can appreciate that. But as the law in the code and the administrative code clearly spells out, there's a maximum transparency with this. You have a district committee that's required by law that we have in place in NISD that would review and help develop whatever the plan is. You also have to say, we want to do these things, and these are the laws that prevent us from doing it. If the laws don't prevent you from doing it, this doesn't apply. It only applies if what you want to do, the law prohibits it, okay? Once the committee has made the recommendation, you've got to tell the commissioner that you plan to apply to become district innovation before we can do that. And then once all that's in place, then you have to post the plan on the website for 30 full days before you can approve it. If you want to make any changes, it requires the committee, district committee to approve it, the board to approve it, and that too has to be posted for a while. So right now, I don't really have any particular things in my mind other than the flexibility with the calendar. There's no extreme right or extreme left program. I'm looking at it all, and either as staff, this is just to provide maximum flexibility should there be a situation that the law prohibits something that we think will help us perform better as a district. And so tonight's just, if you're okay with us looking into it further, we will. You'd rather we not, we stop.
But looking into does not mean a commitment to. It just means we're getting more information about it.
It would mean that we would start the process of having conversation amongst ourselves. What do we need to do that the law won't let us do?
Okay.
That's the main thing.
And I guess that's what I would want to know. What is it that we are needing to have an exception to the rule for?
And the only thing that I've heard about discussed is the calendar.
Okay.
That's all I've heard about. It's not about programs. We're still required to follow the state curriculum.
I gotcha.
We still do the accountability system. We can make it tougher, but we can't make it easier. Okay.
What is your recommendation?
Hearing from the staff, I looked at this years ago, and I didn't want to get into it. We didn't have any issues that prohibited us. But You're a little different here. You have your surrounding districts, your competitors, that have given themselves maximum flexibility. We don't have the flexibility. So it kind of puts us at a disadvantage. So if we wish to look at flexibility, we will develop a plan with the district committee, bring it to you. Have the public hearing the committee has a public hearing, the board has public hearings, plenty of chance for input. And if there's support for it, we do it. If there's not support for it, you don't do it. It requires a 2/3 vote of the board to approve the plan.
Well, I don't think it'd be in the harm looking into it further with it.
Well, and the thing is to look at what do we want to do that's prohibited right now by law. And if we find those things that we want to change, like right now it's the school start date mainly, which triggers in the contractual date issues that we're dealing with. And right now, that's really where we are.
Mr. Freddie, when that started last year, I did a lot of homework. Once you make a commitment, you can commit it to specific things. And if you decide to add to those, you make an amendment.
Yes.
Therefore, if you commit yourself, it doesn't mean you drowned.
Right.
You can commit yourself to 1 or 2 or maybe 3, whatever you want, a specific thing. And
So it's no danger.
No.
once you commit yourself, you have to follow it.
Yeah.
You have to follow it.
But you have, the plan has a life of no more than 5 years.
Yeah, it's five years, but we can rescind it at any time.
Correct.
We can just say, stop, and we notify the state board, and it's over. We can
go back
turn it
to
off
where we
like
are.
that.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of, do we want to even look and see, is there something that, I can tell you one thing, when we come up with not enough teachers at the beginning of the year, and we're the last ones to try to hire, it
Right.
puts us at a real disadvantage of getting qualified teachers at that point. So if we investigate that in one area, that would really help us to have the best teachers in the classrooms. And because we don't know the numbers in all these different classrooms, we don't know how many are going to show up. And then we need to hire extra teachers because we have extra students. So we need to look at and have our game face on, that's what everybody else is doing.
If I could add too, Madam President, the district committee includes community members and parents as well, along with staff.
I think it's a good idea.
Mr. Freddie, I haven't got a chance to look at it as you just handed out. Is there a deadline for that as well?
It has timelines. I don't know the deadline, but I know it has timelines.
There are specific timelines denoted the processes, but there's no like application deadline or anything. We just have to notify the
What I mean
commissioner
by
once
that is
we've
like, if you
followed
say something,
the
you have
steps.
15 days to publish it, and make it public.
There's specific posting regulations, and I believe, having researched this last year, we're kind of in that window of, if we're doing this to adjust the school calendar to an earlier start date, we would have to start the process now in order to complete the process in time to have an earlier start date. I did have an opportunity last year, as you did, Mr. Manir-Ahmad, to do a good bit of research on this issue, and I would concur with my fellow board members that it's definitely a discussion that I think is worth having. My foresight or thought on that is, though, just want to make sure that, and I know we will, through the District Advisory Committee, have the opportunity to have that teacher and parent input during the process, because I don't want to assume that our teachers want to start earlier in August. I'd rather hear from them and say, yes, an earlier start date in August would be beneficial, and I would like that, and it gets us out of the classroom before June the, 5th or 6th. You'd be back up to getting out in May. So for me, that would be a very important part of the process, is to know that we're capturing those opinions and data and respecting those teachers' opinions. I do want to emphasize to our staff that I know last year there was a lot of discussion about, well, if you implement this opens up the board to all of the District of Innovation opportunities. It's really not how the process works. If we're looking at it for calendar, it would limit us to, we could only do the calendar. And if we wanted to do anything else, we would have to go all the way back through that process again and solicit that same input and have that same process with the district advisory committee as well as the board. So I don't want there to be fears or concerns that, you know, we're going to do more than what we're saying we're doing.
And I would add again, it requires at least a minimum, a majority of the district committee to approve the plan and approve going forward. And that's after they've had their public hearings. They must hold a public hearing as well.
Okay. So before it even comes to us, then it has to pass by that much. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it's a very thoughtful, stepped out process, and it does take an extended period of time, which I appreciate because it gives the community, the parents, the staff, the teachers also an opportunity to let their voices be heard in regard to what their opinion really is.
And I will say to you, basically, we had chased the car of flexibility for a long time. Now we've caught it. What are we going to do with it?
Yes, yes. I will note, this was not an option that was available to us previously because your district cannot be in an improvement required status.
Right.
And apply for this. We had to climb that hurdle first, and now we've climbed that. So it gives us the opportunity to look at this and the flexibility it could bring.
Well, I don't know who is responsible for the district calendar, but that person is a gem to have to coordinate the hours, the minutes, and every single little thing and tick and tie. I mean, that to me is an incredible task. So whoever does that.
And I would caution us too that should there be an interest in lowering the number of minutes as required by state law for instruction, you can do that, but you lose funding.
Gotcha.
I will say to you right now, don't go down that road.
Nope.
There you go. There you go. Well, I believe I'm hearing a consensus that this is something we would like to hear more on. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Dr. Hill, please proceed, and we will look forward to hearing back from you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. That takes us to item 9B, discussion of district-wide LED lighting project. Mr. Martin.
Good evening, President Fitch, members of the board, Interim Superintendent Mr. Fraley. Thank you for the opportunity this evening for allowing us to come and start the discussion of a district-wide LED program for our buildings. At your places, you have a document with a blue tab. If I could bring your attention to that. Also, Mr. Ralph LaRue, as well as Mr. Jarrett McCurry, is here. If we have additional questions, I'm just going to kind of go through this document here, and on page number 2, starting at page 2, you can see just some photographs. I believe these were taken at Big Send NISD after an LED upgrade project. On the left side is the old lighting, whereas the right side is a picture of the new LED retrofit. On page 3, you can see a classroom as well as a hallway that has been retrofitted with the LED lighting. When we get to page 4, it is basically an executive summary. Our discussion is about doing a district-wide LED project, both exterior and interior lights. The total cost for the project is about $1.5 million. Our annual energy savings would be approximately $174,570 a year. An annual maintenance and operation reduction of about $25,000, plus savings on our stadium lighting, which is not factored into some of these figures here. Also a potential Encore energy rebate of $39,000. So our return on investment would be in the range of about 7.5 years if you were to decide to go with a program like this. As well, there would be a warranty on our 4-inch lighting, 20-year warranty on those fixtures and light boards up there. On the exterior lamps and fixtures, we would have a 5 to 10-year warranty, and on stadium lighting, we would have a 25-year warranty. If you flip the page, this is just a summary of the energy savings by building. We have removed some of those buildings that we had in the past, or some of those buildings that we're going to be taking out of service in the future. So this quote is very up-to-date. Mr. LaRue and I met with Mr. McCurley about a week or two ago and got those numbers solidified. If you take a look on the very next page, we talk about our business case here. Better light quality in our classrooms, 50,000 total burn hours per lamp on most of the lamps, 20-year warranty on all interior 4-foot lamps, new stadium lights with no hassle for 25 years. 25 years. 5 to 10-year warranty on our exterior fixtures and lamps, 50 to 75% more efficient. So we're going to be more efficient. We're going to be saving energy. There's going to be better lighting, and also no ballast to replace, which is a very costly as well as time-consuming chore for our plant services department. Also, better light output in our classrooms, better light output in our exterior corridors, and fewer burnouts. On page 7 there, you will see some of the references provided by E3, some of the school districts that they have retrofitted. You notice the Center ISD is one of those school districts that has gone through the process of going to LED lights. And finally, on the final page there, again, just giving you some additional information. Right now, our stadium does not meet UIL standards with regard to lighting. This proposal would include lighting those areas as well as the track area, so that we would have better lighting for our kids, as well as safety and security out there. So we just kind of wanted to start the discussion tonight to see if the board was interested in moving in a direction to retrofit our LED lighting.
Where will we get the funding from? The fund balance?
Yes, sir. If I can, Madam President, if I may, I know you and I, we've discussed this, and you looked at this previously prior to the bond being passed, and you thought, you kind of want to do it, but we have other needs such as roofs and HVAC, things like that as well. Now that the bond is passed, those things are being covered by bond funds. So I remember Ms. Barbic, and we do have the funds in fund balance, that's undesignated, that we can utilize to take care of this. And the appeal to me is going forward, right at about $180,000 a year in savings from the general fund. Utilities is an ongoing expense. You've got to have lighting for the kids. And any of you that have converted even in your homes to LED bulbs versus, incandescent bulbs, you notice an improved in the lighting, especially if you get, the cool white versus the amber color, whatever it is. And energy efficiency as well. You pick up on that. And so if you ever want to do it, now's the time to do it and begin to maximize your savings at a more accelerated pace than if you wait and do this later on, because I would imagine that the price of this conversion is not going to drop too low. It's probably going to creep up a little bit. I want to thank our tax rep. You came from Fort Bend today, is that correct? Yes. Bless your heart.
So
thank you.
Now's the time to do it.
Yes,
Are they able to do it as school is still in session?
Yes.
Yes, we only work nights and weekends. Using LED lighting.
Yes, they only work on nights and weekends. I will mention as well, to follow up what Mr. Fraley was saying, as you all know, there have been tariffs passed that went into effect January the 1st with China. There are other tariffs that are on the table right now. They have not been approved, but there's the potential for another tariff to pass with China that would increase these costs about 20 to 25%. So again, now may be the time to start looking at this type of project.
Was the football field at McMichael's considered or put in this?
It is not included in this, no. No, sir.
Is it cost prohibitive, or we're gonna put all of our athletics for the middle schools there? And it'd be easier to do it all at one time.
All at one
We could
time.
at least look at the cost.
Yes, sir.
But I think the 8th grade plays at the varsity field, right?
They did this year.
Yeah. Say that their night activities are held at the high school.
They go to high school.
Right.
But they practice over there and have track events and other events
Right.
that are nighttime.
So it wouldn't be bad. What do you think, Coach?
If they are gonna redo the practice field at McMichael, might as well have it over there, because the junior has to travel, take all their stuff over there, wait on it, this game to finish, then they start again. There's a lot of back and forth. Concession stand is an issue. So if I was gonna do it, I would do it at McMichael as well.
Yeah.
If I may, we'll look at that and have a recommendation after a little study. If that's okay with you all.
All right.
Sounds good.
Of course, I'm gonna have a few, you know me, Mr. Martin.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I notice on the list of buildings here too caught my attention. Central administration, I assume that we would not do this building. We would not convert this building.
Actually, we're looking at Mr. LaRue, some consolidation of other functions that we currently have around the district into one spot, so we're taking care of fewer buildings
Okay.
versus sheltering this one
So there may
necessarily,
be more of a plan there we haven't.
that we've been
haven't
talking about.
heard. Okay, probably like.
So
that.
here he is now.
Ah, okay. Mr.
Well, I'll
LaRue.
give you just a snippet of that plan. Technology is going to stay here in this building, and this is where all the server is, and all the lines come to it, and the generator's here, and so it was not going to go. Print shop is going to stay, so this building was still going to be in play. And I'm looking at other buildings we have in service that we could consolidate and bring over to here. Student Services, Ms. Audrey is here, and she is in support of this, I believe. She currently has, in Student Service, she has a building that you might refer to as the old gas building on Fredonia Street. They have the old Angelina College portable. They have an office building that's attached to the old university building, often referred to as the cop shop. And then they have Deaf Ed out by the high school. So they have 4 buildings. So they're kind of scattered all over town. We could consolidate them into one building and be one-stop shopping for a family. Would facilitate better communications and training within that department. They could utilize this space for their trainings and meetings and fill most of the rest of this building that technology and print shop is not using. We could sell 3 of the 4 buildings that Student Services has. The 4th, which is attached to the old university building, the Women's Federation has a plan for that already in place, and they're just holding back on applying for grants to fill that space.
It's a little concerning. This is kind of the first I've heard of this, and you're hitting on a very important topic to me there, and as I don't want to expand our footprint.
Right. We're shrinking our footprint, further shrinking our utilities. Student Services is a daytime operation. They don't have the nighttime meetings and weekend stuff that were of some concern here. There will have to be some renovations to this building in the interim once we move everybody out.
Has this been discussed at the Seabrook level? Would this be discussed with that Seabrook?
But right now, I probably would talk to them about it. We haven't had a Seabrook meeting yet because we're just not rolling things out. You're seeing this because we're looking at the LED, and so we kind of got ahead of ourselves in that regard, because we have just been talking back and forth about the possibility of that, and if that's something we really want to push for. It was still lessen the load of use on this building beyond what it is right now, but it was lessen shrink our footprint in terms of what we're taking care of around the district, because we're maintaining those buildings and we're paying utilities in those buildings. So this is just something we're looking at. This is not a deviation from the bond at all, but I will still talk to Seabrook about it, but this really is your call as a board. This is not really altering the bond. The bond didn't call for us to not use this building, instead we're going to be purchasing the other building.
And again, this building was going to stay in play. But if this building is going to be in use, it just makes sense to go ahead and do the LED conversion. The other opportunities are out there.
The funds use this building.
I think this is the
to be-
first time I've heard this building will stay in play. So, but that'll be for more discussion. Let me ask about the other one on here, the old university building. You've got it identified as well. I assume that you've coordinated with the Women's
Yes,
Federation?
we
They're
will.
on board with the idea of converting to LED lighting in that
They're on board with
facility?
anything to keep their lights from burning out.
Yeah,
Their lights are hard to get to because of all the
oh, absolutely.
stuff they have in there.
Well, and a historic building, I would be concerned about that type of conversion. I want to
Yeah.
make sure that we've coordinated and spoke to them and are being respectful of
Well, I'm working
the
closely
building.
with them on maintenance. If we have to change out the fixture, if we just can't replace the socket and the bulbs, they will get to pick the fixture. That appeals to them.
The other thing, and I want to echo Mr. Fraley on this is not a new topic for me at least. And what is different this time is this project is not competing against roofs and HVACs, which for me, for the past 3 years, I've been very focused on, we've got to fix our roofs and we've got to fix our HVACs. Those are very basic needs. So we've got a wonderful opportunity here to look at some of the other needs and be proactive with our maintenance issues. And I think converting to LED lighting is a good project to look at. I know I've converted some of my business properties, and I have seen substantial savings, not only on the maintenance side of not having to replace ballast and bulbs, but through the electric savings that you're demonstrating here. So I feel good about that. My concern is, and Mr. LaRue, I know that you've heard me say this before, is I really want to see a list of the top projects. Now, I realize that we've gotten a lot of our priority maintenance projects now taken care of through the bond, and this wonderful, very grateful community that supported us and catching us up on those maintenance needs. I do not think, though, that supplants a need for us to have a plan and a prioritized plan telling us that we can use as a guide of this project is more important than, I'm going to pull something out of the air here, school buses, or this project is more important than the computer screens we're putting into, the multimedia screens we're putting into the classroom. I feel very much that we've got to, we can't look at these on a basis of just this project. We have to look at it from a global standpoint, and I would suggest that that's absolutely what we count on Mr. Fraley to do. But we as a board, I don't want us to get lost and say, yes, let's go spend this $1.5 million here, and then a month later, there'd be another project that may have been a greater priority. So it's important to me that we develop that prioritized list.
If I may, Madam, again, as you and I have discussed in meetings, we're working on that right now. And all the things we recommend have gone through a thorough process with the appropriate staff before it comes before the board. Because I think very systemically, I think way down the road. And I'm very pleased with where we are right now. So we'll be working on that list. You'll be aware of what we're looking at. I'll talk with Ms. Barbick and I. We're already meeting. We met yesterday and again this morning. Mr. Rue and I, we're walking through things as well, so you'll have all those things. I want to be clear that the LED conversion is not using bond funds. And so we knew we could not put everything in the Burke Center. And so if you don't move technology and print shop, which is a very expensive notion, your leadership team has enough awareness to make recommendations to you that are prudent and that just make good sense. So these are not bond funds, usually conversion. What we do next will either be bond funds or through other fund balance funds we have. And so when time comes to that, we'll make that recommendation to the board. But it will not be in isolation of a thorough evaluation of overall needs that you've been generating for years. That the bond is taking care of a lot of it through other things as well. And so you look at what's best, when, and how do you pay for it. So we're working on that. You will get it. Seabrook will be honored with all the bond-related projects that may be a deviation from it. But right now, the LED is not a use of bond funds.
Which, and again, I'll reiterate, I'm thrilled that we're in a position that we can look at a project like this now and kind of get ahead of, be reactive and be proactive. And I absolutely trust and respect that when you bring that kind of prioritized list back to us, it'll be the global perspective, and you can guide us through that.
I trust Mr. LaRue. He's always coming up with good ideas. I think it's number 6 now, I think. Well, who's counting?
I'll continue to remind you, remember that when I screw up, all right?
Are we on a time frame for moving on this?
The LED conversion?
Yes.
I mean, where does this go?
Time frame? 6 weeks after?
Oh, how long does it take?
Come to my
Was your question,
No, not as far as installation.
okay.
I was just speaking as far as making a decision.
I would imagine bringing.
How long is the bid valid? Is this good for, does it expire in 60 days or 90 days or 120 days?
Generally speaking, our bids, they'll last quite a while, often 4 months, 5 months. So this is unfortunately a real, hey, you gotta buy now or the price goes up. That tariff thing is real. That really is it's already hit us once. And it's not just us, it's industry-wide. All LED diodes, for the most part, come from China, and they're manufactured and put together here. So long story short, yes, March 1st, there's a possibility if they don't figure out the trade deal that the prices do go up. But that's not a pressure sell. That's just the reality of the situation we're in.
Madam President, if I could, again, the reason by having the discussion tonight is, should there be an interest in us moving forward, we'll bring the recommendation to you all in the February board meeting.
I would like that.
And get to going. So if there's kind of a nod there, then we'll, the next step.
Thoughts, comments?
I think this is a no-brainer. If you look at it, each year it pays you back in savings.
Absolutely.
And it pays for itself. Now, it's kind of like we're loaning ourselves money with this. So it's the same thing. But again, what you're saying is very true. But when we can make money off of this deal, we might drop something else to second or third to get this done.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I feel fairly strong that this is gonna be right near the top, the top of the list, if not, 1 or 2 position, but at the same time, I wanna make sure we've got the global perspective. And so you'll bring back, and we'll look into, hearing the board members say they're interested in the pricing for the outdoor lights at McMichael as well. All right.
So this will be an action agenda item on next month's agenda.
That's my intention, make a recommendation for next
Thank
year.
you.
If we'll try to get the information on McMichael ASAP and get that to you prior to next month's meeting, agenda review. So you have that.
You just email it to us?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to item 10, do we hear a motion?
Reverend Irvin, always make that motion.
I move we be adjourned.
So moved. Thank you, Reverend.
Good job, Coach.
All right.